All right, so this is not normally the kind of topic that I cover on this channel, but it does feel incredibly relevant, and there's a lot of stuff that people need to know, and there is the opportunity to help modify this issue before it becomes law, and thus basically makes anime illegal in Texas, and possibly everywhere. Alrighty, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Again, this is not the kind of topic that I normally cover. Normally I try to stay away from anything involving politics or bills or laws and stuff like that. But this one is incredibly relevant just because it does affect anime, especially because it's in Texas. This is a bill, Bill 20, I believe, which is known as the anti-anime bill on the internet. Basically making pretty much the way it's worded would make all anime illegal. It would be illegal to watch, it would be illegal to own, and it would be illegal to participate in the voice acting, animation, and the even cosplay. It would affect literally everything. And as we all know, Texas is the biggest anime dubbing state. And outside of Japan, it's the biggest anime market, period, especially when it comes to voiceover. And that could change if this bill passes. So Bill 20, which I will have a link to down below, which all of y'all, if you live in Texas or are planning on getting into voice acting and anime in general, I would pay very close attention and possibly even call, if you live in Texas, call your representatives. Now, here's a couple things that, here's the basic gist of the bill, and then I'll talk about both the pros and the cons and kind of my feelings on it. So the idea of the bill, which has on paper, a positive objective. It has a goal that is, for the most part, I endorse to a degree. Now, this is going to cover a topic that is kind of very sensitive, and I'm going to have to kind of dance around the wording because YouTube will absolutely destroy this video. And it covers CP, which is a kind of a big topic, but it's also a topic that's not well handled and not well talked about, especially in the legal sense. Now, obviously, the objective is to eliminate all content that shows minors in a inappropriate way. And since there's a lot of that in anime, that's basically why this is an anti-anime bill. However, even though it's presented as being specifically foreign content being brought over here that has that kind of material, the wording in the bill is so vague and so broad, it covers everything. Video games, still animation like comic books or, even fan art, movies, cartoons, animation, you name it, including cosplay. Because it's anything that depicts, basically the wording is anything that depicts minors in obscene, offensive, or inappropriate situations, or in any kind of obscene context. But here's the problem. And now I do endorse this objective. I do support the idea of eliminating content that actually is what they're trying to get rid of. That kind of stuff I do actually want gone. I want nothing to do with that. When they passed an adult entertainment bill, or are trying to, I believe, again, in Texas, which could also cover, a lot more. There's a couple other states, I think, that have something similar, trying to get rid of basically all of that kind of content. There are things about that I do endorse. There are things about that I think is positive. I do think that is good to get rid of that. It's going to be a while before, if a bill like that was to get rid of all highly inappropriate content, and it was to be nationwide, and we were to actually have no access to it, which I will again also cover the pros and cons of that. And it was to actually get rid of all of that, and people weren't allowed to look at it, people weren't allowed to sell it, own it, all that kind of stuff. I actually feel like we would actually better. Obviously, it would take multiple generations to actually see the positive effects. Current generations, it would be rough. A lot of people would still object, and it would take multiple generations to actually basically detox the youth, if you know what I mean. So there's some positives about that. There's some things that I do actually like that. If you hear a bell, that's because my cat is out here losing his mind. He got a new toy that he actually does like, and so I'm happy. But he won't leave my room, so I have to have the door closed. So there are things about that I do like and I do approve of. However, this is basically an example of, tell us that you're really old and don't understand the media without saying that you're really old and don't understand the media. Because the wording of the bill is way too vague. And the problem with it being too vague, in Bill 20, is that every single anime would technically qualify. The word obscene, offensive, or inappropriate, these are not legal terms. There's no legal definition. And when we're talking about a bill, when we're talking about laws, when we're talking about stuff that could go to court and people could go to jail or get fined, we need actual solid legal terms. We need legal definitions. And when you have a bill that, like Bill 20, which is not passed yet, it just, went through the Senate. Now it's got to go and be, looked at and then further voted on and stuff like that. But the way it's worded covers everything. It basically leaves it open for whoever the judge is to determine what they personally find offensive and inappropriate. And if that judge just so happens to be incredibly, tightly wound and incredibly kind of hates fun in general and hates young people and young people content, they just make it illegal. It doesn't bother them. They don't care, if that content is gone. And it could be stuff like, people holding hands or, kids in junior high kissing, which is also totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this bill could basically make that illegal. Now, there is some content that I absolutely agree when we're talking of the more adult variety, that yes, that kind of stuff probably doesn't need to exist. There's no reason for that. And if they wanted to get rid of that, especially when it came to, underage characters, that's totally fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that in my book. Now, of course, there's going to be some people that would disagree. But now here's the other side of that. One of the major problems outside of the vagueness of the wording of the bill is also the fact that this would all be labeled under the same criminal umbrella, which is child da-da-da-da-da, which is a very serious crime. And anyone who is a part of that or commits those actual crimes or has legitimate content of real people absolutely should be going to jail, absolutely should be hit with the full extent of the law. 100%. No disagreement. The problem is that when it comes to animation, cartoon, anime, we're really going back to the same mindset that has been disproven multiple times over and over and over again, which is the same argument that violence in movies, violence in video games, violence in comics causes people to be violent. That kind of idea, that kind of mindset, that, young people can't tell the difference. That has been disproven multiple times. The more violent and realistic video games and movies and all this kind of stuff, all the different media have gotten, the less violent the general population has been overall. Now, do I believe these are connected? No. I don't necessarily think that these are connected, like people who have that kind of itch are now seeing more realistic violence and, that's getting out of their system. I don't believe that has anything to do with it. But I also don't think that one is affected by the other in any way. I don't feel like more violent video games makes people more violent. I don't think that has anything to do with it. It's been the same with music, making people bad, or books. There was, obviously, early on in my youth, and even way before that, there was this big thing about certain content in books making people, devil worshippers and violent and evil and blah, 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 this and that. And that has not been the case. That has never been the case. Reading Harry Potter does not make people, worshippers of the devil or make people love witchcraft and stuff like that. It doesn't affect them. Media doesn't affect them, generally speaking. Now, do I think legitimate content, again, going back to the underage variety, is a crime? Absolutely. But here's the problem that I have. If someone is murdered, if someone murders someone, intentionally kills them, we have a legal term for that. And we have legal ramifications for that are equal to that crime. If someone accidentally takes someone's life, we have a legal term for that. Manslaughter. We have legal ramifications. We have consequences that are equal to that crime. If someone plans to murder someone and doesn't end up going through with it, but they still get caught trying to murder them, we have a legal term for that. We have legal ramifications that go along with that. Each one of these different kinds of variations of this particular criminal topic have different names, have different terms, have different legal definitions, and have different repercussions. However, when it comes to the CP topic, all of that gets lumped into one and is treated like the exact same crime, and it's not. It's not. Especially when we're talking about things that are just jokes, which a lot of, yes, obviously Japan has a completely different sense of humor than we do, and Japan understands and identifies content that isn't real as not being real, so they don't treat it like it's real. Over here in America, we treat everything as if it's real. That's a big difference. And yes, would I be fine if we were forced to censor all anime to match Western rules? Sure. Yes, there's going to be a lot of people that have a problem with it. But if that's what we had to do to work around that, okay, fine. But I need that in writing. I need that on paper. I need to know what the rules are. The current writing of Bill 20 is vague. And the problem is we have a lot of anime dubbing studios in Texas. It's the biggest anime dubbing. Every single one of those studios would basically be illegal. Everyone who worked there would be a criminal. Everyone who has a membership with any of these streaming platforms would basically be criminals. Anyone who's ever dubbed anime would be a criminal. And so on and so forth. That's the problem. That's the problem. And it's totally fine to want to eliminate that kind of stuff. It's totally fine to make rules going forward. The problem is that this was not a problem before, and you arbitrarily all of a sudden made it a problem now, and it's not even worth the crime you're making it out to be. And this, long story short, I'm not pursuing anime anymore. Not right now. And my dubbing studio is not officially, is not open to any kind of project anymore right now. There are a few clients that I work with, and I'm still going to continue to work with them. There's a lot of Chinese dubbing and live action dubbing that is totally fine and doesn't need to be censored, even under the vaguest senses of Bill 20. But as of right now, I will not be participating in anime, and there's going to be a lot of even Western cartoons that I'm going to have to either pass on or be very strict about. Because Bill 20 would even cover Rick and Morty. It would cover Family Guy. It would cover The Simpsons. It would cover South Park. I mean, definitely cover South Park. It would cover almost every single popular Western cartoon that has a variety of ages and characters, and it's all absurdity. That's the thing. I mean, Stewie alone would get, Seth MacFarlane, like, arrested and put in jail. According to the wording of the bill, he would be in jail, and anyone else who was involved would also be in jail. Also, anyone who owns a membership to a streaming platform that has any of this content, even if you haven't watched it, you still technically own it, and you would go to jail. That's the problem with this bill. I have no problem with certain kinds of censorship on certain topics, as long as we know what the rules are. If we don't know what the rules are, it's hard for us to debate and for us to work around stuff or even argue it or change it later. But as it currently stands, it is basically a deal breaker for doing voiceover in any kind of edgy cartoon. Hell of a Boss would be over. Like, you can't watch that. Can't watch that at all. You can't watch, like most cartoons from like the 90s. You can't watch Powerpuff Girls. You can't watch Dexter's Lab. You can't watch Ed, Edd n Eddy. There's a lot of stuff that could be seen as offensive or obscene or inappropriate for underage characters. Teen Titans would also have to go, because there's a couple of things that you'd be like, I could see how someone would, somebody who's a judge would have offense, would take offense to this. And that's the problem. I mean, there's also a lot of stuff that I was writing, which is totally fine. There's nothing in it, but I'm like, I can't write any character that's under 18, even being like chased by a serial killer or being, scared for their life, or, I can't, until I know what the rules are, I can't write anything, confidently, anything, just because like the wording is too vague. And I don't write anything obscene or offensive or sexual on that matter, especially with characters that are underage. But again, I don't know what the rules are, and none of us do. So depending on what happens, and I don't know when this video goes up, where the process is, Texas may no longer be the place where you can do anime, get into the world of anime. It may even also be where you're not even able to do voiceover in general. I mean, you could do commercial narration because there's no characters in that at all. But even like some commercials you wouldn't be able to shoot here. Like if you had a joke where some kid gets lit on fire or punched or slapped in the face, you couldn't do that. You couldn't have kids cursing, even if it's for humor. You couldn't have inappropriate jokes. Jojo Rabbit would be banned. Like, the list goes on and on. You can think of 1,000 different things that could be listed as offensive, as obscene or rude or inappropriate, and it just goes on. And that's the problem. And if this bill passes, basically, you're not able to make anything if the wording stays as vague as it is. And if the criminal label put on anyone for anything like this stays as severe as it is. And it's crazy that we had like real predators and real criminals on this topic that have went on, like we knew about them for years. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, P. Diddy, we knew about them. And no one did anything. I mean, this has gone on for a long time. Real, actual, physical, real-world criminals basically go on forever, but we create a bill that anyone who likes, absurdist humor is a criminal and goes to jail, fined at minimum. So, yeah, that's the problem. And it's going to make this kind of rough until I know where we are and what the rules are. There's a couple things got to be on pause. And I had to talk to like a couple of my Texas voice actor friends that they moved to Texas not that long ago. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This was a place for anime, and it's not going to be anymore. It may go to Atlanta. It may go to Florida. Maybe I'll move to Atlanta. I don't know. If I have to, I probably will. But we'll see. I don't know. But for right now, pause all of those ambitions. Try not to get involved on that level at all until we know what the actual rules are, or whether or not this passes, whether or not it gets altered or changed. Until you know any of that, put all of that on hold. Okay? And if you live in Texas, you're a Texas voice actor, you're a Texas artist, you're a Texas actor, what have you, whether you're involved in anime or not, please contact your representatives. Let them know how you feel. There's already been a lot of people speaking out about this. I mean, obviously the anime community is already, raising a huge stink because this would basically end it forever. I mean, until studios moved, basically all anime dubbing would get put on hold. So, but yeah. That's going to be it. Any links to the topic at hand will be down in the description. I don't know if YouTube is going to flag this video. I have a feeling they might, even though I was very careful with my wording. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys have read it, if you haven't read it, go read it. I will leave whatever links I can to the topic in the description. But yeah, it's going to be it. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Totally fine. Subscribe if you're new, bell for notifications, and leave down the comment section below if you'd like to see any other videos, me cover any other topics. It's all good. And until next time, peace.